Hello everyone, I'm Muni Darshan, Executive Director of Fortune IAS Academy. Today, I'm in front of you to do a toppers analysis of the answer sheets of this year's topper, Kasturi Sha, who secured All India rank 68. We are going to look at how Kasturi transformed herself from her initial answers to the final form which she had, which got her to be one of the toppers of UPSC Civil Services examination. So we look at some of the faults she had initially and how she overcame it. In the second half of the discussion, Kasturi herself will be talking to you about how she improved on her weaknesses while keeping her strengths and which helped her secure top marks in this examination. So let's start. Every good answer would require three things: clarity of thought, clarity of presentation, and essential information. Once you get all the three of it in a very good manner in the answer, you will probably address the demand of the question and you'll get really good marks. So it might seem simple, but it is the formula which every topper kind of perfects over time. Now, when you look at Kasturi, there were some very prominent strengths of her right from the first answer she wrote in the test series. For example, if you can see behind me, it's one of her initial answers itself. You can see the beautiful handwriting, very legible, and she's from an English literature background, which means she has got beautiful language. It's very beautiful to read her answers. The presentation is also top notch. But she missed a few things in presentation in the sense like she didn't have too many diagrams to start off with, no maps. And the biggest problem Kasturi was facing initially was first understanding the question keywords. She was missing the question keywords. She was just looking at the topic and just going on with her answer. So understanding the question keywords, addressing the totality of the question, that is one problem she had. And also, curiously, a problem of space management, like kind of like in Einsteinian way, she had a problem of space-time, or time and space were her problems, time to complete, and also the issue of managing the space, which we were working on. Also, how to bring about examples, where to place examples was a problem which she was facing initially as well. Okay. So basically, when you look at the clarity of thought, clarity of language, essential information thing, she had decent clarity of thought. She had good clarity of language, clarity of presentation, which could be made meta with diagrams and management of space. Essential information, it is more about how to place essential information. Okay. And that is a difficult thing. Some people do not make it, but she made it within 3 months. She was able to make a huge jump within 3 months about how to place essential information. So you can see the big difference from this and when she is talking about her answers, which she wrote in the final examinations. So this question is about disaster management. Himalayan development model would be a recipe for disaster if not planned carefully. Analyze the statement with recent examples of disasters in the region. So this is about Himalayan development model. Now this is last year, but even this year this could be a question. It could be a question anytime, because when you're looking at Himalayas, there's constant disaster almost every year. There's either a cloud burst. Last year this was in the background of 𝗁𝗔𝗻, and this year there was a miners, after the 𝗁𝗔𝗻, the miners trapped incident, and other forest fires. There are issues just happening in Himalayas mainly because of the developmental model there. So that's the question. Now look at the keyword. The keyword is analyze. Now this is one of her initial answers. Check. She has not even underlined analyze. It means it's completely left her. Okay. Analyzing a question would require looking at it from all angles, from a deeper perspective, which would which would involve us to look at what the problem is, why is it happening, who are the actors, where is it happening, and also how to solve it, the 4W1H formula, or different dimensions of the same thing, and bringing in different aspects and how they are interrelated. So in this question, you will see her bringing a lot of points, but not writing a conclusion properly, not writing a way forward, a solution part, which analyze demands, and also a kind of depth which is required in the examples, and bring in the current relevance of this question as well, which kind of something which she missed here as well. Okay, the introduction is brilliant. It was even then good. Okay, but one issue which she had initially was she was thinking a lot for the introduction. She was trying to get that perfect introduction, which means she was taking too much time with her introduction, which meant she was losing time elsewhere in the question and in the overall paper. So towards the end, we were able to get her to write these introductions in a very short span of time. She was able to make these introductions quickly. We did that through constant practice and through use of our quality improvement program, which we had last year. So the introduction, the Himalayas fall under zone 5, highest degree vulnerability. They are located in continent-continent convergence and are prone to frequent tectonic realignment, folding, and faulting. So brilliant, underlining the key points, only the key points, not every part of the question. That is also good, really good. Okay. Then she goes on to write the issues, which is the keyword she saw in the question. Okay. So writes the question issues. Now, issues is right, but the question also demands examples. Examples are missing. Okay. So issues with examples and a way forward is what we're looking at. She writes issues. Occasionally there's an example. And in the end, when you come to the third part, there's no way forward. There's no conclusion, which is the problem. It's a good answer. The language is good, but it is not a complete answer. Okay. Someone who would write less points than her, less issues than her, less explanation than her, would probably get more marks than her in this answer, because that person has written a way forward and a conclusion, because each of these things will carry separate marks in UPSC. And also you can see sometimes this border development activities, she's explaining it too much. She wants the examiner to understand this question, right? Okay, so glacial lake outburst floods, dam outburst floods, hydel projects. She wants us to understand everything. So she's explaining a lot, which you can see in her later answers, she changes. Okay, so this is also something she worked on, where to explain less and where to explain more. This is also something which we worked on in her questions. So this was one of the problems she had. So she had a problem with completion. She had a problem with understanding the keywords. She was missing the keywords, which means she was missing parts of the questions when she was finally concluding it. And she had an issue of time and space, because she was writing too much of one thing. She didn't have space to write the remaining stuff. And now we look at the next question, the second question which you've taken up. This is from Society, Social Justice. It's a 150-worder. Okay. Greater women participation in STEM sector in India will broaden the base of our innovation pyramid and support women-led development above and beyond women empowerment. Highlight the various challenges to greater women participation in STEM. STEM is science, technology, engineering, medicine. Okay, so that's what we're looking at. Okay. Highlight the various challenges to greater women participation in STEM and suggest remedial measures. The question is kind of direct. Okay, so it's looking at women participation in STEM and it's asking you the challenges, why there is less women participation, and remedial measures. So it's asking you directly what it needs. So here the question framing is not, the answer framing is not that difficult as the previous one, where there's analyze. Okay, and you had to think of way forward, examples and stuff. Okay. Now here the problem which she faces, if you probably see this answer, I'll just go through the answer once. Okay. If you're probably seeing the PDF, okay, there's no conclusion here as well. Apart from the conclusion, you probably, if you're noticing, one thing you will notice, an experienced examiner will notice in like this, the fact is there is no underlining here. If you look at the previous question, she's underlined brilliantly. Here, headings, underlines, no underlining. Okay, so where is the important point or anything like that? That itself tells you, and she's written like the previous intro was smaller than this, 3 sentences in the intro here. Okay, so she's written one big sentence, then less than 10-20%, and a third sentence to add to that. The third sentence is only recently that an IIT in India got a women director. Now, this probably was not required for the intro. Okay, this probably was not it. So it is like she's trying to say something extra. Okay, immediately itself the examiner will figure out, okay, this person is not confident in this question. Okay, but even then the answer is decent, but it can be made better. Now, one challenge which she had was, initially she did not have the confidence of how to attempt questions which she was not very sure of. Okay, so it was very easy for the examiner, which is me, to figure out which questions she knew and which questions she did not know. Okay. The toppers, for example, one of my old mentees was Meera, 6th rank 2 years back. Okay, you could not figure out her best answer and her worst answer. The answer she knew perfectly or she did not know perfectly. She was brilliant at hiding it. Now here, Kasturi, being a person who's starting off, had some issues with it. She was not so good at hiding this thing. An experienced veteran, probably even seeing this, would know, okay, I'll do this thing. We'll talk about things like multidimensionality. multidimensionality is something which we can apply to this question. Now, Kasturi was writing this answer at a time when she was not very comfortable with multidimensionality. And multidimensions, like, for example, we talk about PESTEL, political, economic, social, technological, legal, or the syllabus thing, where we talk about historical, economic, geographical, so social, governance, internal security, ethical issues and stuff. So that's another way of multidimensional aspect which we work out in class. Okay. Now, she is not comfortable using that at this moment. She becomes very comfortable using this at the end. And she also becomes comfortable in applying this to specific answers and how to bring out these specific answers, which she does brilliantly as well. So challenges, as you can see, patriarchal mindset, horizontal segregation, glass ceiling, good points, but no underlining, no examples, no stat, shows a lack of confidence. Now, when you see her final answers, which she'll be explaining herself, she'll be bringing in these stats brilliantly. Okay. And she will also something which any aspirant need to understand is, once you have cleared prelims, you probably have these stats in your mind. Okay. It just is about, okay, how you will probably not understand that, okay, you can use the stat here, or you can use this point here. Okay. You have pretty much most of the points you need to clear the mains once you clear prelims. It is just about application. And that application is something which we did with Kasturi towards the end. So yeah, you can see that. Then she writes initiatives, okay, generally Atal Tinkering Labs. Atal Tinkering Labs is a very general thing. Okay. Reserve fixed number of seats for women in the higher education STEM institutes. Okay. So she's become very general. Okay. When towards the end, you can see her using more governmental schemes. Okay. Bringing in governmental schemes and putting it here, which is what another topper, Malini, used to do. Okay. And she kind of got inspired by that and started adding that as well. Okay. And bring in government schemes and also spacing correctly, and also writing an introduction, conclusion. Here again, no space for the conclusion. Conclusion also carries a separate mark. Okay. So these are little things which we worked on, okay, giving her confidence to take on these questions, to use multidimensionality, to use diagrams and maps, okay, to how to manage her time and space issues. Okay. So these are things which we worked on. So how she worked on it, Kasturi will be talking to you directly in the second part of the video. To take forward the second half of the discussion, let me introduce to you Kasturi Sha, who secured All India rank 68 and is one of the toppers in general studies in this examination this year. So Kasturi would be talking about how she worked on the different difficulties she had in the initial parts of the examination, and how she reached the final form while keeping her strengths while eliminating her weaknesses as well. So Kasturi, the floor is yours. You can take over.
Hello, today I'll be analyzing two of my answers here. And let me mention that these were the answers that I wrote after a period of, say, 2 months. We began the mains test series at Fortune here in June. And after June, it took me a couple of months to polish the answer writing, as sir has already pointed out. And by the time it was August and early September, I started writing answers of this kind. So as we say, Rome was not built in a day. So this answer was also not built in a day. It took me a couple of months to polish it out. So the question here, this is from GS2. And this year in GS2, I have scored 115. It is a topic that we have from governance regarding civil society and democracy. So the question is, civil society and democracy reinforce each other, but the working of civil society organizations is marred by controversy and foul play. Discuss the challenges being faced by civil society organizations in India. So when we look at the first part of the question, we'll understand that they are mentioning something positive about civil society and democracy there. They reinforce each other. At the same time, it's also mentioning the controversies, the negative sides of that. And see, if you look at what the question is exactly asking for, they are asking for the challenges. So that is going to be the main crux of this answer. Discuss the challenges that are being faced by civil society organizations in India. So first of all, initially I had this problem with time management and also with the spatial planning of the answer. By the time I came to the end of the answer, I would not have space there to write a conclusion there. So over a period of time, we worked on it. And sir used to regularly point this out in my answer, so that every time I wrote an answer, I was conscious to leave space so that I can fit in a conclusion there. And so we begin with the introduction. So after that introduction would generally be a small paragraph. So initially my introductions were longer. It used to go into sometimes 2 paragraphs. So I had mentorship of the Mains test series by Munidarshan sir, and sir used to tell me that introduction 1 paragraph would be enough. So now you can see the transition here. It's in a paragraph. And now here I'm addressing the positive role of civil society. Initially in the answer, I did not address all the parts of the question properly. But over a period of time, through reading the toppers' answer copies as well as through mentorship sessions, I understood that anything that is mentioned in the question is not simply put there for granted. It is put there because we'll have to address it. So I have in half a page. So the first half was for introduction. The second half, I've given it to highlight the positive role that civil society plays there, and substantiating each statement that I'm making there with examples. Now, this is also a difference because initially, as sir has shown in my answers, there wasn't much of these value addition points, or there wasn't much of the statistics or facts to substantiate the answer. It would look a bit more general. But when I put an example there, for example, an example of the MKSs or Aruna Roy, it becomes more concrete, looks more well-read. So that was another difference. And the way that I'm framing it, see, transparency mechanism, that makes a point. I'm not going on to explaining it longer and longer sentences. So I was able to evolve a balance over time regarding which areas to explain more or which areas to explain less. So that is another thing. So positive role, you can see each point with examples. So after addressing the positives, now we're coming to the main crux of the question. The question was to discuss the challenges faced by civil society organizations in India. So now I'm going to spend almost like 2 pages. So this is a 15-marker question. We'll have 3 pages. The next 2 pages will be completely devoted to what this question is asking for, the challenges faced and its different dimensions. So if you see here I've explained something in quite a short paragraph. Compared to the positives, there we saw I was simply writing in points, giving an example, but here it elicits an explanation from me because this is an area which I'll have to give more clarity on. So I've written a small paragraph as explanation there. And another thing that I'd like to point out is I've tried to bring in examples and instances from the current affairs. That is, the things which were very active or which were happening over the couple of months that we were writing the Mains test series. During that time, the FCRA amendments and the licensing of NGOs was highly discussed in news. So I have brought it in there. And the Oxfam's license, which was recently withdrawn. So that point, there was a big controversy regarding the EIA amendments which were going on. So such things that we usually pick up from the regular newspapers as examples. Then next point here, if you look at this example, see, these examples are things that will come up very commonly in the NCERT. So it's not the lack of examples that we have, but knowing where we can put it in the most appropriate manner. So just noting down 𝗴𝗃𝗹 there. And whenever there is a point that you'd like to highlight, I usually underline it as well. Usually it would be proper nouns like Kudamgulam nuclear reactor. And now this is where spatial planning became extremely implementable when it came to the final stages. Because initially I did not even get a space to write a conclusion here. It all looked crammed up till the end. But now I was sure I need to stop the answer and I need to leave a space to put a conclusion there. So it's a well concluded answer also, a small paragraph as a conclusion. Okay, this is a question from GS3 and I had a score of 90 for GS paper 3. This is an area from economics. The topic is food processing industry. If you can look at the syllabus, you find this exactly there in the syllabus. And okay, so the question is asking about the scope, significance, and challenges of food processing industry in India. And the keyword there is to discuss. Initially, I had this problem with making out the keywords like discuss, analyze, critically analyze. So I and my mentor, 𝗀𝗍𝗻 sir, we sat together and we used to regularly discuss what does each key term mean in order to properly answer the question. So here, if you can see in the introduction itself, I have brought in statistics to substantiate the point that I'm making. And here, the value addition happened through reading the mains test series answers itself, the answer keys that Fortune used to give, as well as the top answer copies that sir used to share. So now I am able to make a concrete point there by stating a fact, 10%, there's another one, 40%. And you can also see a diagram here, and diagrams became more frequent in the answers that I started writing. Then even if it is an answer that you do not have much of an explicit content, but there might be things that we would be able to make an intelligent guess and extrapolate from the things that we already know. So taking that kind of a calculated risk and writing the answer, even though we might know it, we might not. Initially, I was not confident of writing certain answers, like sir has already shown you. But by the time mains was approaching, you generate this kind of a confidence to approach the question, to attempt it, to answer it. So here it's a simple diagram. And yeah, so as we saw, the question has 3 parts. There is scope, the significance, and the challenges. Now coming to the spatial planning, I divided it equally. For example, half a page for scope, and following we'll see half a page for significance and half a page for the challenges, apart from the conclusion and way forward. So here in scope as well, we have a statistics there. And these are the things that we usually underline to highlight, numbers and things that we have taken effort in learning and things that we want to project it to the examiner. And then, yeah, the significance part. Here again, you can see it is half a page that is devoted to significance. You please note to use these key terms like sunrise sector while we write GS3 answers, especially such terms which are used frequently by the government. We'll come across them when we go through government publications like Yojana or Kurukshetra. Then 𝗂𝗃𝗿𝗍𝗃 committee. If you can bring in reports from committees while writing a GS3 answer, that will also be a value addition. If you can underline, be better, I forgot. And something from the current affairs, an example to substantiate that. And the next part, the next half a page would be to address the challenges faced by the food processing sector. There also, we can bring in statistics, like rather than saying there is absence of cold storage facilities, if we can bring in and say only 1/3 of APMCs have that, it makes it more believable. Then, yeah, that's another point. Okay. Now, this is a thing that when it comes to the structuring of a GS3 answer. Whenever we write a GS3 answer, if we can bring in certain recently implemented government schemes and list them down. This was a thing that I used to do frequently in my GS3 answers. So initially, I did not get this idea, but over a period of time, it happened to me that if we can bring in certain government schemes, there must be a reason why this question is being asked for the examination. It would have certain relevance because the government might be pursuing active policies behind that. So if we can quote that here and bring it, the different government schemes, that also adds value to the answer. And finally, initially, as the answers have shown, I did not have a proper way forward. I did not have a proper conclusion. But now in this answer, I'm able to bring 2-3 points as the way forward. I'm also able to suggest a solution there and also a conclusion. And in the conclusion, if you can bring in terms of the government projects, say like the Vishwaguru or things from the SDGs, that would also make your answer look more credible. So that is how the answer is. So thank you.